Welcome back everyone! Today I will show you how to make a super easy medieval inspired dress that will quickly become a staple in your fantasy wardrobe. I was inspired by the beautiful simplicity of this Armstreet listing, as it's not only just super nice on its own, but looks like it's a very versatile piece that you could style and layer in 100 different ways. So the biggest difference between the Armstreet dress and mine will be the fabric, as I will be using cotton and not linen. Because although I love linen, it creases so much that it drives me nuts. And linen is also, unfortunately, super expensive. The way you draft this pattern, if you're following along at home, is super easy. But first, you will need a couple of measurements.
You will need the bust round, the waist round, their distances from the shoulder point and the shoulder to the floor measurement. First, you fold your fabric in half, and on the folded edge you will mark the shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist and shoulder to floor distances. From here, you draw perpendicular lines on which you will mark the quarter of your bust and quarter of your waist measurements. You can connect all these lines now, and you have the main body of the dress outlined. The sleeve is really up to your taste. At the end, this is the way I did mine. The neckline, in my opinion, is the easiest thing to do, because as long as you cut a big enough hole for your head to fit through on the mock-up, you can put it on and draw it on yourself however you want it to be. Before cutting the fabric, it's always good to make a mock-up to check the fit and the silhouette. For example here, looking at the inspiration, I realized that the sleeves could be definitely fuller. On these pictures you can just barely make out the back seam. That's most probably a dart that shapes the bodice portion, which becomes a seam where a triangular gore can be placed to make the back of the skirt portion fuller. The back dart and the two side seams are where the shaping of the gown takes place. So I'm thinking the way I can make the sleeves fuller is just to use as much of the fabric as I can, only cutting the negative space under the arms out, something like this. I drew my design on the fabric using the mock-up as a guide, but modifying the sleeves, and cut it out twice. First the front panel, then copying that, the back panel. Be careful not to cut the neck hole as deep on the back panel. And don't forget to add seam allowances to everything.
So I'll try and show you all of it in one go, but my camera is not big enough, and my table is definitely not big enough. But you can see that basically the only pieces we cut out is the neck and that little weird shape that separates the body from the dress itself. And we cut it in half where the skirt meets the sleeve end. And that's about it. So it's a very simple pattern. And I guess we'll see what else I need to do to make it look a bit more flattering as well.
Then I sewed the side and the shoulder seams together with French seams, because these seams will be quite visible in the inside of these billowing sleeves, and I wanted them to be neat looking. Also, a French seam will last you through a couple of washes, so your dress will be a lot more durable. Then I tried it on, and I'm already so happy. I will have to shorten and round the sleeve points a bit, and definitely add that back dart for a bit nicer fit. I have to be careful about it though, because the front of it has to remain straight, so it's a bit of a balancing act. While wearing it, I pinned it to my liking, and taking it off, before I unpin it, I marked it so then I can measure how wide the dart needs to be. I fold the back panel in half, and at the waistline I mark this measurement. This will be the widest point of the dart. I know that the dart has to be between the bust and the hip line, so I mark these and draw a curve connecting these points. My advice here would be to start off small, try on your dress a lot, and you can always make the dart bigger or even change the shape bit by bit. This is a bit of a process to get it exactly right. It took me a couple of times too. But once you are happy with your dart, we can move on to the gore that will attach to the back seam that we shall create now, by cutting the back panel in half, starting from the hem up until the end of your dart. To make your gore, you will need to measure this seam you just created and make a pizza-shaped triangle using this measurement as a radius. The width of the triangle doesn't matter. If you make it wider, your skirt will be fuller, but it's up to personal taste. you need to attach it to the newly created back seam. Here I also used French seams. And now comes the part that's the most painful for me, hemming the dress. I let my gown hang on the dress form for a couple of days, so it stretches where it needs to, as some of it is cut on the bias. Then, using a ruler, I tried my best to level the hem. To finish the raw edges, I use the rolled hem foot. That creates a beautiful finish, but it does take a bit of getting used to. If you don't have it, you can use any other hemming method. Or you can just fold it back twice and stitch it down by hand, only catching a couple of threads each time, creating a near invisible look from the right side, like I did for my neckline. The last official step is the drawstrings on the sleeves. For this you will need to cut 4 strips of 1 inch wide and your arm length long fabric and 2 rectangles for the channels that are 5 cm wide and as long as you want the channels to go up on your arm. For the strings, you will fold the strips in half, sew them shut and turn them inside out using a big needle and a strong yarn. Then press. Fold every single side of the channels inwards by 1 cm, then iron it in half. This crease will help you pin its exact middle to the interior of the top seam of the sleeve. Once it was pinned, I sewed it on following the seam line from the right side of the fabric, so I can hide the stitching in the seam line. Now that the channel is secured, you can stitch both of the long sides too. Then, using the same big needle strong yarn combo as before, you will pull the strings through the channels and secure their top edges by sandwiching them in between the channel and the main dress fabric. And with this, your dress is officially done. Mine, however...
Of course, I decided to make my own job harder by wanting to embroider the neckline, as well as maybe even the sleeves, which will be a lot of time to finish. But I did some tests. I really like this one actually. These are tests for the neckline one. It's something simple, something I can do fairly quickly. Until I realized that you can also put beads into these one, which is just so cool. So I did a couple of tests with the colors. I don't have a favorite out of these. And this is the test for the sleeve edge. Here's some with double beads, which is sort of cool, but maybe a little bit too much. I did a couple of color tests with different colors of gray. This is the best one out of this lineup. From here, maybe this one as well, or this purple one. But I might just do some more tests.
At the end, I went with a simpler design, as I realized that's what suits the vibe of this dress the most. I even removed all the beading of the sleeves last minute in the car on our way to film the reveal.